Hello again. Today is Monday, April the 15th, 2013, and it's about 1 o'clock my time, and I'd like to talk to you all about two things today. Gun control with an aside on polling data in North Korea. It has been proven time and time again, wherever there is guns, there will be tragedy. And this week, the United States Senate met to take up discussion and debate on the Gun Violence Prevention Act of 2013. And I was particularly struck by a comment that was made by two senators. One, Senator Christopher Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, and Senator Richard Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois. During an exchange between Senators Murphy and Durbin, Senator Durbin brought up about the Sandy Hook Promise. And by the way, I encourage you all to go to www.sandyhookpromise.org. Again, that's www.sandyhookpromise.org. That's all one word. And go online there and look around. It's a very nice website. It's been set up by the families and the victims of this Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting tragedy that happened back in December of 2012. And their online petition is there. It's two parts. It's about 2 sentences long. And it's basically letting them know, as the respective individuals, and letting your representation in Washington, D.C. know where you stand on common sense gun control legislation. And I encourage you, if you feel so led, to sign that petition there. And again, that will go to your respective representation in Washington, D.C. and let them know where you stand on comprehensive gun control legislation. But getting back to my concern, or rather, while it is my concern, the comment that was made by Connecticut Senator Christopher Murphy. And as I said, Senator Durbin had brought up about the Sandy Hook Promise, and Senator Murphy has been talking for weeks on behalf of the victims of the Sandy Hook Elementary School tragedy, and I applaud him for that. But this particular comment that he made, I was taken aback. And he said, and I quote, "Tens of thousands have gone online there and signed this petition," end quote, close quote. And I believe that there is a coup, if you will, hijacking, if you will, coupled with comments like that and recent polling data on comprehensive gun control legislation. I've done some simple R&D concerning the polls of late that have been taken, and there's been a lot of polls taken of late on comprehensive gun control legislation. But this one poll in particular that was done by Pew Research Center, and it was commissioned by most of the major news media organizations to the Pew Research Center, and it's a poll that the media keeps hyping and a lot of politicians keep hyping, and that is this poll where it says that 90% of Americans want comprehensive gun control legislation, end quote, close quote. I went online and I looked at Pew. I looked at the actual polling data. And on average, when they polled, in this particular poll as well, they polled 1,037 people, 1,037 people, about this comprehensive gun control legislation. And the majority of those individuals said, yes, we want comprehensive gun control legislation. In fact, it is the 90th percentile that the media keeps talking about. But they've taken this polling data and they've taken comments like the ones that Christopher Murphy made on the floor of the United States Senate, and they've run screaming with their hair on fire out of the theater of life. We need comprehensive gun control legislation. We need comprehensive gun control legislation. The respective states aren't going to do anything. All the while, and of late, 14 of 50 states in their respective state legislatures at their state capitals have sat down. They've stopped whatever it is that they're doing. They've literally cleared their calendar. These respective state legislatures have cleared their calendar and they've said, we need to take up comprehensive gun control legislation. Enough, that is enough, okay? We've had one too many deaths by gun in this country, and we truly and truly, now is the time to start doing something. They should have started doing it when the first child was murdered, but they didn't. Now they want to, because the amount of deaths is too much for them to bear. But that's for another time. But they've taken it up, and they've passed in their respective states good and comprehensive gun control legislation. President Obama, the President of the United States of America himself, has gone around to a majority of these states and these state legislatures and these governors, and he has said, both publicly and privately, thank you. Thank you for doing that. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. We appreciate it. We think it's wonderful. Respective senators and congressmen in Washington, D.C. have said, good job, great, wonderful, keep it up. We need you to do this. All the while, and at the same time, ramming, with all due respect, this happy horse crap about comprehensive gun control legislation. To me, it's two-faced and it's hypocritical. If the respective states are getting in line, and 14 of 50 states have already done that, they're getting in line and getting on board with comprehensive gun control legislation, then let them do that. Or in the words of the late great Ronald Wilson Reagan, let them go their way. What's the problem? What's the deal? Why don't you trust the rest of the states that remain to get online and get on board with that? Why don't you trust the states, period, to govern their people? What's the problem? I would submit for you, and you're welcome to respectfully agree to disagree. You may have other opinions and other people do, and that's fine. But I would respectfully submit to you that it's to make $1 off of 15 cents. Because they don't make near enough dollars off our 15 cents. I would respectfully submit to you that they don't give a whit or a whim about you and I, we the people. They only care about themselves and how much money that they can make. It's for crap, folks. These polls, we've talked at length, I've talked ad nauseum about polling data and how I feel about polling data and how the media do these polls and how they hype these polls. It's for crap. They are literally running out of the theater of life with their hair on fire, screaming and yelling to the top of their lungs, we need comprehensive gun control legislation. All the while praising the respective states that have taken up comprehensive gun control legislation. It's a little bass-acrous, it's a little hypocritical, and it's frankly dumb. It's dumb. So I take issue with that. And I would to God wish to those of you that listen to this video and watch this video, stop whatever it is that you're doing. Pick up your telephone or fire up your computer and send an email to your respective state legislatures. Okay? Call them up, send them an email, send them a text message, whatever, your respective state representatives in your state, and ask them, period, point blank, where they stand on comprehensive gun control legislation. And if they think your respective state needs to have comprehensive gun control legislation, or that the comprehensive gun control legislation that's on their books and that they've been abiding by and upholding all these years it works or it needs to be strengthened. And if it does, and if they say, well, we need comprehensive gun control legislation in our state, then you follow up with this question. What can I do as a private citizen and as a concerned citizen and as a constituent, what can I do to help you to get comprehensive gun control legislation in our state? Or what can I do to help you to strengthen the comprehensive gun control legislation in our state? And they'll let you do that, and they'll tell you exactly how you can do that. And you take up their advice and consent, and you help them. You roll up your sleeves and you help them to formulate or to strengthen the comprehensive gun control legislation that they have in your respective state. It is your right, it is your civic duty, it is your quote-unquote call to arms, call to political arms for you to do that. And I encourage you to do that. Now, moving on to North Korea, I am reminded of the epic quote from Shakespeare concerning this setu involving North Korea and South Korea and the United States. Quote, "Alas, poor Yurik, I knew him." End quote, close quote. On July 22nd, or rather, July 27th, 1953, the Korean War armistice was signed. That ended the Korean War, the First Korean War. And I quote for you partly what the Korean War armistice says, that 1953 armistice says. Quote, "To ensure a complete cessation of hostilities and of all acts of armed force in Korea until a final peaceful settlement is achieved." End quote, close quote. Since July 22nd, 2010, the respective naval forces in the South Pacific of the United States, South Korea, and Japan have been participating actively in war games in the South Pacific, the Yellow Sea, and the Sea of Japan. And North Korea, through China, through Russia, and through other intermediaries in the United Nations, have asked and asked and asked and asked and asked the United States, South Korea, and Japan to cease and desist your war games activities in the South Pacific, the Yellow Sea, and the Sea of Japan. It is, for all intents and purposes, a violation of that 1953 armistice agreement. It is an act of war. We see it as such. Please cease and desist. Lay down your arms and go home. We don't want any problems with you, and we know you don't want any problems with us. And, you know, North Korea has its history. It is a communist country. It is an oppressive communist country. They starve their people. They work their people to death. They have little to no representation of their people and by their people and for their people. It is an oppressive and depressive country. And through China and through Russia and through other intermediaries in the United Nations, they get food and aid and medical supplies to their people. And they do that a lot through the bolstering and bragging of armaments and taking up arms until they get something. But this time it's different. Because this time, since July 22nd, 2010, the naval forces of the United States of America, South Korea, and Japan, under the auspices of President Obama, President Park, and Prime Minister Shinzo, have been actively participating in war games. And North Korea has said kindly and respectfully, please cease and desist. Go home. Please stop. Don't do that. They've gone so far now of late to put nuclear warheads on top of missiles and point them at Guam, Hawaii, Alaska, and the far western part of the state of California, and Oregon and Washington State. Don't know if they'll reach those respective places or not, but they've said, please cease and desist your war games. Go home. We don't appreciate it. It's an act of war. Stop it. As kindly and respectfully as I know how, President Obama, President Pak, and Prime Minister Shinzo, please take up the advice and counsel of North Korea, their respective leadership, and go home. You will get innocent people killed. Please stop. Go home. It's a waste. What you're doing is a waste of time, tax dollars, and frankly, good people's lives. Please stop it. Go home.